Okay, so today we're going to look at these thermoregulations. Okay, thermoregulations, from the name here, we want to regulate our body temperature. So our body temperature actually affected by two sets of the receptor. One receptor actually located on your skin, which detect the external temperature. Okay, for example, you go out from the aircon room into a normal room without aircon, so you can feel it, oh, warmer. Okay, without the aircon, right, warmer. So your first set of the thermoreceptor, which on the skin, will give us the idea, oh yeah, it's warm, oh, it's hot, okay, oh, it's cold. So this is the first set. But inside our body, we have another set of the thermoreceptor located at the hypothalamus, which detect the core body temperature. Okay, so in order to have these thermoregulations, we need two sets of data. So these two sets of data play an important role to help us to regulate our core body temperature. Okay, so what we're going to learn here for today, the learning outcomes, very simple. Okay, we need to outline the role of two system. So we have nervous system as well as the endocrine system in coordinating the homeostatic mechanism, including this thermoregulation. Okay, so it means that in terms of thermoregulations, we're going to look at these two systems, how these two systems can help us to regulate our body temperature. Okay, so as we know that the thermoregulation is a control of body temperature, so that to make sure that you don't want to have too high the body temperature. If too high, then it will denature some of the protein. If too low, then metabolic reactions will be slow. Correct or not? So we want to maintain it within an ideal set point. So when the body temperature is high, we bring it down to the normal temperature. When the body temperature decreases, then we want to bring it back to the normal. So how we do this, we need two systems, which are nervous system, which involve the action potential, or we call electrical signaling pathway, okay, as well as endocrine system, which involve the hormonal, right, the hormones, okay, or we call it as a chemical signaling pathway. Okay, so which organ in our body actually releases the most of the heat energy? Actually is liver. Okay, our liver cells release the most of the heat energy, and this heat energy will going to be absorbed by the blood when flow through the liver, and then when the blood go through the rest of the body, this is how we maintain our core body temperature roughly at 37 degrees Celsius. Okay, so we need the two sets, as I said, that we need the two set of the input. Okay, so the hypothalamus in our brain, which act as a control center for our body temperature. So the first set, okay, of the receptor, the first receptor actually at the hypothalamus, monitor the temperature of the blood, okay, when it passes through the brain. So this one detect our core body temperature. Are you clear? Okay, then another set is actually located on our skin, the thermoreceptor on the skin, to monitor the external temperature. So we have these two sets of the thermoreceptor, and these two sets of thermoreceptor can actually detect the stimulus. One is core body temperature, another one is the external body temperature, as the external temperature, and then these two set of data, or we call it as input, will be sent to the hypothalamus of the brain, which act as a central control for the body temperature. And from there, we start to interpret this data or this input and then send the output to the appropriate effector. So in this case, what are the appropriate effector, which include the muscle, can write down, and also the glands. Okay, these two will be our effectors. So these effectors, what they do, they're going to respond to the output sent by who? Sent by the control center, okay, and the hypothalamus. Okay, so what for our syllabus here, we do not need to know the mechanism, Okay, we do not need to know the mechanism in terms of how the corrective measure is done. Are you clear? But we just need to know what are the responses when our core body temperature is low or our core body temperature is high. Okay, so highlight these activities 18.18, which is very important because you need to know how our muscle as well as the glands, including our behavior, how we regulate our body temperature through this process called thermoregulations. Okay, so we look at the first one. Look at the first one. Enlarge a bit here. So we do have some effectors here. Okay, so when our body temperature is low, always remember, our core body temperature is low, basically means we want to conserve the heat energy. We don't want the heat energy loss, okay, to the environment. Always remember, when your body temperature is low, we don't want to lose energy. The heat energy, we want to keep heat energy. So we need to think the way to keep our heat energy. Okay, but if our core body temperature is high, when the core body temperature is high, basically means that we overheat, for example. So what we're going to do, we need to release extra heat energy. So no matter what we do, this is the concept. Low temperature, we want to keep the heat energy. If high temperature, we want to release the heat energy. So how we're going to keep and release the heat energy? The major one actually through the smooth muscle in the arterial, in the skin. So on our skin, we do have this arterial and also the blood capillary. When the blood brings this heat energy to the skin, then that is the place where we are going to release the heat energy. Are you clear? Skin is the major organs how we release the heat energy. Are you clear? Always remember. So smooth muscle here will control the diameter of the arterial. Okay, capillary we cannot control, guys. Capillary we cannot control, but arterial we can control because arterial has, okay, the arterial has the smooth muscle. So the contractions of the smooth muscle going to have this what we call the vessel constrictions. Are you clear? So if you want to regulate the blood flow, how much blood can enter into the blood capillary, then we control through the smooth muscle in the arterial. And we talk about smooth muscle is involuntary. Involuntary means that we do not need to control them with our conscious mind. Are you clear? So smooth muscle, okay, always remember for smooth muscle, we no need to control them with our conscious mind. Okay, same to the cardiac muscle as well. So this smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, we call them as involuntary muscle. So involuntary muscle basically means that they're going to contract and relax based on the stimulus. Are you clear? Or the input from our subconscious regions of our brains. Okay. So now what smooth muscle can do towards this arterial? So we can have, if let's say, okay, when our body temperature is low, means that we want to conserve the heat. So it means that less blood should move to the skin, correct or not? Right. We want to conserve the heat. We don't want to release the heat energy. Then we have to reduce the blood flow into our skin. So therefore, you can see that muscle, this muscle refers to the smooth muscle. Smooth muscle contracts, okay, result in this what we call the vessel constrictions. Are you clear? So known as vessel constriction. Vessel means blood vessel. Constriction means narrow down the lumens, the diameter of the lumen. Be careful when you write. Muscle cannot constrict. Be careful. Muscle cannot constrict. Muscle contract. Are you clear? Muscle contract. Muscle cannot dilate. Only the blood vessel or arterial can dilate. Be careful, not the capillary, is arterial, because arterial has smooth muscle. Capillary, they don't have smooth muscle. So this is the parts that you need to remember. Okay, so when muscle contract, it will cause the vasoconstrictions. Less heat is carried from the core to the surface of the body. So therefore, we can maintain the core body temperature. We conserve the heat energy. We don't want to lose the heat energy through the skin. So this is the first way we respond to the low temperature. Okay, so vasoconstriction. But if your body temperature is high, can I see that? Okay, body temperature is high, so we want to release the heat energy. So how we do this? We can actually allow the blood flow into our skin, therefore we can release the heat energy. So, but in order to get more blood flow into the skin, what we have to do? We need to relax our smooth muscle so that we can have the vasodilation. So it means that increase the diameter of the the lumen arteriole, so that the blood will enter into the capillary. So more heat is carried, okay, from the core to the surface. Therefore, you can lose the heat by convections and radiations, okay? Even though the conductions is generally low, but when they're inside the water. Are you clear? So evaporation take place, so therefore we will be able to reduce our core body temperature. So therefore you can see that when low temperature, people tends to be a bit pale in color, right? Pale in color. Why? Less blood actually move to our skin. Therefore, pale in color. Are you clear? But when you have high body temperature, let's say for example, you go for a jogging exercise while your face or your skin look red because vasodilation take place, more blood rush into your skin because we want to release the heat energy through our skin. Are you clear? So this is how the smooth muscle respond to the low temperature and high temperature. Okay. Now, second part, we look at this, sweat glands. When talking about sweat glands, we do know that one of the property of the water, because the water will have high latent heat of evaporation. So it means that the evaporations, because we want to break the hydrogen bonds between the water molecule so that it can turn from the liquid stage, the water, into the vapor stage. Okay, so means that you're going to absorb the heat energy. Are you clear? I understand the concept here. The liquid water stay as a liquid because of the hydrogen bond, right? Because they're close to each other. But if you want to convert the liquid water into, okay, liquid water into the vapor stage, then evaporation have to take place. So during this evaporation, then we need to break the hydrogen bond. So water molecule, okay, water molecules have to absorb sufficient energy. So this comes from our heat energy. So again, if low body temperature, we do not want to lose the heat energy. So our sweat gland actually stop producing the sweat. Okay, so no sweat will be released. Are you clear? Okay, but to respond to the high body temperature, when respond to the high body temperature, the sweat gland now secrete the sweat onto the surface of the skin where the water going to be evaporated. Because we do know that water has a high latent heat of evaporation due to this hydrogen bond. So in order to break these hydrogen bonds, the water has to absorb as much heat as possible to break the hydrogen bond so that they can convert from the liquid stage to the vapor stage. Okay, so in this case, they will be able to help us to take the heat energy from our body. Okay, so this is second response. Third response is erectile pili muscle in the skin. So this erectile pili muscle actually connected to our skin hair. So when this erectile pili muscle contract, what will happen? You're going to raise the skin hair. Can you see that? So again, look at this diagram. So this is the hair follicle. Can I see that? This hair follicle. So at the hair follicle here, we're going to have our skin hair. Okay, so okay, let me draw it again. So skin hair. Under normal conditions, the skin hair like this. So, but this skin hair actually connected to one of the muscle called erectile pili muscle. So when this erectile pili muscle contract, what will happen here is the hair is going to stand up, to raise up the hair. So what you can see here will be, this is the hair follicle. Now the hair will stand up, okay? It's like this, not, okay? It stand up because due to the contractions of this erectile Pilate muscle. So when this contraction take place, what will happen? You can see that now at this area, not one hair, many hair, are going to trap a layer of the air. So when it traps a layer of the air, make sure that it forms the insulator layer. Are you clear? It forms an insulator or insulations layer here. Okay, so means that when we need to do this, when our body temperature is low, where we want to conserve the heat energy. Okay, so erectile pili muscle in the skin will do what? So what they're going to do here, against the erectile pili muscle contract, raising the skin hair and trap an insulating layer of the still warm air next to our skin. So why is warm air? This is our skin, right? So the heat energy release. So this heat energy will be trapped by the air here, the warm air. So it forms an insulation layer. Are you clear? It forms an insulation layer. Okay. But if our core body temperature is high, where we want to release more heat energy, then this erectile pili muscle relax. Erectile pili muscle relax, lowering the skin hair and allowing the air to circulate over the skin. So when the hair, lower down already, it won't trap. Can you see that? It won't trap a layer of the air. What will happen here is the air will be able to remove. Can you see that? The air will be able to remove the warm air. So it's a circulation of the air allow us to have carry away. The air will carry away the heat energy. Okay. So this erectile pili muscle in the skin. So something fun, interesting fact. Okay, compare us to the some of the mammals. If you look at our skin hair compared to other mammal, even our close relative, chimpanzee, orangutans, okay, you will realize that if you compare like this, our skin hair is much more, the density is much more lower compared to the hair of the animal, where they form the fur, right? Okay, so this is actually one of the theories saying that, okay, so when evolution take place, we are not a sprinter. Okay, if we run, okay, you can see that when we run for short distance, compared to animal, definitely animal sprint faster. Are you clear? You can look at the cheetah, you can look at the some of these canines, okay? So they actually run faster, much more faster compared to us. So our ancestors, how they hunt? They hunt because in terms of we hunt the animal, one of the problem here is we cannot outbeat the animal because they run faster. Are you clear? So what will happen here is in the evolutions, because of the mutations, and then we do have the allele code for our body hair, less hair. So when our body hair lesser, what will happen here is it won't trap the heat energy, helping us to release the heat, and together with the sweat, you can see that we will be able to outbeat the animal, not by how fast we can run, but how long we can run. So far, not many animals, okay, will be able to be the marathon runner. Only humans, one of them, okay, are able to run for 40 kilometers of marathon runner without any problem, without overheat, because we do have these two. One, our skin hair reduce in terms of the density. Second, our sweat gland. You can see that the dog, okay, so how they release the heat? They have to pan, cannot stick out the tongue. Why? Why they need to stick out the tongue? Because they stick out the tongue, then the tongue acts as a surface to release the heat energy. But for us, we don't need to do this because our skin less hair and we have the sweat glands to release the sweat. Okay, so don't be cruel to your animal. Okay, what's mean cruel to your pet? Basically, your dog and the cats. Nowadays, you can see that people always like to put on the clothes onto the cats and the dog and bring them out to have a walk. This one actually you are torturing your pet because why? First thing, they have a thick fur already. Unless you keep them in an aircon room, if no, you put the clothes on them, basically you make them suffer even more because of the thick fur and the hair. Difficult for them to release the heat energy. But for us, it's okay because our less hair. So that's why we need to put on the clothes. Why we need to put on the clothes? Due to two reasons. First, definitely we want to cover our private parts. Right? Okay, because we do have the mind, we do have the thinking, so therefore we cover our private part. That's one of the reasons. Okay, second reason why we put on the clothes, basically to insulate ourselves. When we cold, we put on the sweater, right? So this is to cover. Okay, so basically different. Don't put the clothes onto your pets. Okay, I know it's nicer, but the thing here is you actually make them suffer more. Particularly, you bring them out from your house. If you're in a house, you do have the aircon room, it's not much a problem. Are you clear? So this is something to share with you guys, okay? Particularly when you have the pet, if you want to put on the clothes, can inside a house, but you bring them for a walk, make sure that you remove the clothes, okay? Now, this is something to do with erectile pili muscle in the skin and the hair. Then what is the next one? The response, our skeletal muscle, okay? Skeletal muscle. So this skeletal muscle, what we do here is, you can see that when it's cold, you tend to have the shivering. So shivering basically is a muscle contraction and relax repeatedly. Then because of the contract and relax, you're going to have the frictions and generates the heat energy. Are you clear? As well, in this case, because of the hydrolysis of the ATP, release the heat energy as well. We won't be able to capture all the heat energy. So this heat energy will be captured by some of the cells and our body to increase our body temperature back to normal. Okay. But when you have the high body temperature, no shivering now. Okay. No shivering. We stop shivering. Okay. Next, how about adrenal and the thyroid glands? Okay, we talk about the muscle just now. You can see that the muscle, the glands. Okay, now we look at this hormonal system, which involve the adrenal and thyroid glands. Both of them basically increases the metabolic rates by secreting adrenaline from the adrenal glands and thyroxine from the thyroid glands. Okay, so these two glands help us to increase the metabolic rates, particularly catabolic. Catabolic reaction basically breakdown. When you break down the, for example, glycogen, heat energy is released. So therefore, we generate the heat to bring our core body temperature back to normal. Okay, but if our body core temperature is high, then the gland will stop secreting the adrenalines and thyroxine, so that makes sure our metabolic rate return back to normal. Okay. So how about behavior in this case? Behavior, for example, you are going to put on more clothes, put on sweater, you find, okay, the shelter, okay, you may have this turn off the air cons, okay, when the core body temperature is low, okay. But if your core body temperature is high, you tend to find the shade, okay, you won't put yourself under the sun, you go for swimming, you remove the clothes, okay, stretching out, so that you will be able to release the heat energy, okay. So out of those, which are the one that's normally question will ask? Okay, question will ask about, highlight the first one, second one, okay, then skeletal muscle together with the glands. Okay, these four are very commonly question asked. Our behavior, what our smooth muscle will be doing, or what is our sweat glands will be doing if our core body temperature is high, or during the thermoregulations, or how our skeletal muscle and adrenal glands that functions when our core body temperature is low. Okay. So with this, we have done, okay, generally. So this diagram summarize then the events here, okay. So some things that you need to look at it. So we have the solid line in this diagram and also the dashed line or dotted line. So solid line basically means the nervous system. We use the nervous system to control, to have this thermoregulation. Dotted line or dashed line basically means that's the hormonal system, hormonal system. So we do know that hypothalamus in our brain act as something like our body thermostat. So it means it's a control system. So we divide them into two parts here. One is during the heat, another one in the cold. So basically means that the core body temperature is high. This one core body temperature is low. Okay, so we do have these two sets of the thermoreceptor. One is at the hypothalamus. Another one is the thermoreceptor on our skin. So both of them give the input. Okay, they are the receptor, give the input to the control center. So what is the corrective measure here is first vasodilation. So arterial in the skin dilates and the sweat glands secrete the sweat. Can you see that? These two. So very important during the high body temperature, and how the output is sent by the hypothalamus is through the nervous system, right? Through the nervous system, which we are going to learn the mechanism of the nervous system later. Okay, on next topic. Okay, so if when the body temperature is low, then again we do have the thermoreceptor in the hypothalamus, and also the thermoreceptor at the skin. Okay, at the skin detect the decrease in the blood temperature, and the surrounding temperature again is send the input to the hypothalamus, which is the control center. Okay, so what are the correcting measures here? So first, vasoconstrictions, reduce the blood flow to the skin, shivering, so the skeletal muscle contract, then hair erectile muscle, okay, contract to raise the hair, okay, to increase the depth of the fur, and our adrenal gland secretes the adrenalines. So you can see that through these full lines or solid lines means that is through the nervous system. Okay, so but you can see the dotted line means that the output is sent to the thyroid glands through the hormones, right? Thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. So these thyroid stimulating hormones will cause our thyroid gland to increase the secretion of the thyroxine into the blood, and then will the adrenal gland secrete the adrenaline. So adrenaline is a hormone, thyroxine is a hormone. Therefore, both of them will increase the heat productions by the liver. So through the metabolic reactions. Okay, so everything summarized in this diagram. So that's all for the class, okay, for thermoregulations.